Good afternoon, Ruby Lane. This is Michael Canadas with the Grovian Doll Museum. We're very fortunate today to have a guest speaker, and this is the first of our artist series. The Grovian Doll Museum has 4 centuries of dolls. We're missing 5, which is the 20th century. And today we're lucky to have today Stephanie Blythe. Stephanie, come on in. Say hello to Ruby Lane.
Hi, Ruby Lane.
Stephanie, I've known Stephanie for over 30 years. And I remember the first time that I met her was at a UFDC convention in Washington, D.C. And I remember watching her set up her booth very meticulously, beautifully, artistically. And then on opening night, it was all gone. And what I remember most of those days was her wonderful Teacup fairies, which that was 30 years ago. But weren't you doing them before my time?
I think I started doing them in 1981.
Okay, so that's now almost 40 years ago.
Yeah, something like that.
So Stephanie's here to share her art, and also why we decided to do this today is Stephanie happened to be in Pacific Grove. We're in Pacific Grove, California. Stephanie is the chairman for the NIADA, not NADA, NYADA convention that's taking place at Asilomar in Pacific Grove. So she was here to do a walkthrough of the facility and a walkthrough of the Grovian to make sure everything is up to snuff. But we thought, why not look at some of her incredible dolls? I don't always wear glasses all the time, but for Stephanie's work, you have to be able to see because it's tiny, meticulous work. So let's look at a teacup fairy. Because these are what you're really known for. Isn't that one of your staples?
Yeah.
What made you to think to have the inspiration to do a teacup fairy?
Well, Susan, my ex-partner Susan and I were traveling, and we talked about, well, where would a fairy like to sleep? And then we stopped at an antique place and found this beautiful teacup, and that was the beginning. And
that started the whole teacup fairy. Now,
yep.
In your career, how many of these do you think you've created?
I haven't counted, but each one is different because each one reflects the design that's on the teacup, and the wings are real butterfly wings. And
where did the butterfly wings come from?
I buy them from companies that raise them.
Raise them for that.
Yeah.
Now, this is your own complete design, is it not? Your molds, and you do all the painting?
Yes, I do all the sculpting, and I make my own plaster molds and pour them and clean them. And then when they come out of the mold, they come out with their heads straight and their eyes open. And I kind of sleep each doll individually with the porcelain slips.
So there's no two alike?
No.
No.
And I cut their heads and move them around and move the hands.
So that you get whatever, what it fits with the cup.
Right.
And of course the cups are all antique cups that you use. So each one of those is, and we've got to get in. Look at the detail of the shadowing in the eyes. It's really amazing. And then with the Mother Nature's wings, I mean, they are magical. And the thing about your work, which I think is very impressive, is in the doll world there are different groups. And your work appeals to people that do not collect items. Right. People that collect only antiques find you're one of those crossover artists.
I am, yeah.
You are. So shall we look at that thing that I'm loving that you're doing are these little teaspoons. So
these are sterling silver spoons. They're all antique. And then each baby, there's orchids on this spoon, so then there's orchids on the baby. I try and, coordinate.
And what do you call these?
Sterling silver spoon babies.
Spoon babies, okay. And this would be a wonderful gift for someone that just had a baby, and I know you do a lot of work for the rich and famous, so this would be something that someone like that would like to have as a gift. And then again, this is your own sculpture, correct?
Yep.
Super. The one thing I like too that you do are your nautical pieces. So can you show the audience some of your nautical pieces?
Sure.
And in these beautiful,
So,
because we're by the sea, so everything that's by the sea is very special.
so these are this is a woman, obviously
A mermaid.
and then this is a mer baby. And
And you have to really look to see. That's why I have my glasses on. The mer baby's just emerging. I mean, he's really just looks like he's just being born. It's so tiny in there.
And all the crystals are Swarovski Austrian crystals. And the seashells are all real that I collect all across the country. I go to different beaches and beachcomb.
And I'm sure there's going to be some Pacific Grove.
There are some
shells.
Pacific Grove. I think this limpet here is from Pacific
Oh yeah,
Grove.
that you
Yep.
find here.
Yep.
No, and they're just enchanting.
And the mer baby has a sea urchin hat.
Oh, that's sweet. These are just so enchanting. And there's another one here. Show the audience too. This little peach kid,
Oh yeah, this is a tan mer baby.
darling.
Each one of these is different too.
So there's no two alike.
There's no two alike.
Because there's no two shells alike.
Right, there's
or
no two shells or, yeah. So I just sit there and
create.
create it.
This is something different too that you have here. We've got a fairy in a basket. So is that a one
That's
of
just
a
a
kind?
one of a kind, you know. She actually started out in a teacup, and I didn't like her in her cup, and so I had that basket, and it just they evolve. They're an evolution.
I love your colors
Thank
and
you.
your arrangements of flowers.
Thank you.
I mean, it all has just such a whimsical quality to it. Yet it looks very relaxed. Let's go to the woods.
Okay.
These are some wonderful. Let's go to the woods.
So these are part of my Babes in the Woods series, and this one's called Dances with Rabbits.
And again, is this a one of?
Yeah, I mean the molds are, you know, similar molds, but they're all dressed differently, and these are all dressed with things that I find in the woods. Like the lace kind of streamers on the rabbit are a lichen that grows near the ocean that makes these lacy streamers.
And the colors are, that's nature's
Yeah,
colors.
that's all nature's colors.
You haven't messed with
No,
that.
And his hat is an acorn from a cork tree that grows in my town.
Oh, wow. Oh, it's
So that's a
perfect.
cork acorn.
So as an artist, you're everywhere looking.
Oh yeah, I'm constantly
You
looking
don't
on the
see-
ground.
You don't see, you see what others do not see.
Right,
You
right.
see what things can be, not what they are.
Exactly.
Now, when you make a piece like this,
Mm-hmm.
this is a tiny little mold. You
is.
must have quite a bit of pieces that don't make it through the process. Or have you gotten that down?
I've gotten it down, but I used to have a corner in my studio when I first started out where I would break fingers and just throw them across the room and have a little pile.
But you've gotten easier.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
gotten easier for you.
Yeah, I've been doing
I mean,
this
I don't
for a
think
long time.
people realize the labor that's involved in this. I mean, this is a tremendous amount
It is.
of you know, to get to probably the end result, which is putting all the adorable things on it. You've done a lot of grunt work before
Yeah,
that.
you have to make the mold, you have to pour the porcelain, fire it, and then all my dolls are China painted. So they go in and out of the kiln at least 3 times for the China paint because you can't, you know, like I'll do all the black and then I'll put it in the kiln and fire it. And then I bring it, you know, take it out of the kiln and paint the eyes, you know, and the whites of the eyes, but I can't, that's each a different
And
firing.
each time you do this is a risk factor, is it not, for the items?
No,
No,
well.
because you got it down.
Yeah, not so
She's
much
got it
anymore.
down. I guess after 40 years,
Yeah,
if you don't
right,
have it
right,
down,
yeah.
you don't have it
Right.
down to be able to do that. And then these, to me, you know, I honestly, I see Stephanie about twice a year professionally, and then if we're lucky, she'll come to one of our events once a year. So I see her. So I don't always know what is in her inventory, but this is something I think, is this not new?
These are fairly new, and I like to have a variety of price ranges, you know, from my nut babies up to, you know, these sell for $195.
Yeah, those are wonderful.
So, and their heads move.
And the clothes, your choice in the fabrics and the trims
So all the fabrics
are incredible.
All the fabrics are antique samples that I get from Jennifer Osner, who has all these wonderful samples, but they're only like this big, and I loved all those textiles. So one of the reasons I designed these was so that I could use
You could
those.
use those textiles. Yeah. So again, basically, whatever you have here it is a one-up.
Yeah.
Because you're
not, because it was a little sample that was, you know, this big.
And do the heads move on these pieces?
Yeah.
So it's a one-piece body.
Yep.
And then you've got the swivel neck. And then look take a shot of these, because these are very, very charming right there. It's just super. So this is a whole new line for you.
Yep.
And then of course we should go down and look at your Edwardian lady, which is a big size. When I think of you, I think of tiny.
So this is one of my larger dolls, and I usually do, you know, a piece like this for the NYADA gallery night.
This would be like your kind of show-off piece that you want to show.
Exactly.
You want to stand out.
Yeah.
In a group, but your facial painting, which we need to show them, is really it's just lovely.
Thank you.
And I mean, I would imagine that people that collect fashion dolls, this would just be just an extension of a fashion doll collection.
And I have an incredible collection of antique textiles, and everything on her is
it's of the period.
Yeah.
It looks to me.
Yeah.
Just wonderful.
And let me just turn it around so you can see the back.
And the nice thing for you, I would imagine, is this look would be very hard to get in a 2-inch size. So that by doing it this bigger size, you have more fluidity of the clothing. And but let's talk about these little hatchlings. They'd almost look like.
So these are in walnut shells, and I call them my end of the day babies. You know how the Venetians use end of the day, their leftover glass? Well, I started making these using my leftover
slips and
materials and things so that nothing goes to waste in my studio.
And that's what I think people that don't make dolls realize, is that, you know, materials, and it costs money. And in order to be a successful artist, you've got to be able to know how to, let's just say, get your food costs down right. So, but you know what? It doesn't look like they're the end of the day. It looks like they're the beginning of the day. This one is my particular favorite right here. I mean, I like all of them, but that's the one I really love. Now, I think we should take a couple of minutes and talk about why you're here. So you're here today. Stephanie's here today to go do a kind of tour, figure out where we're having. Your party's going to be here.
Our gallery night opening, which is, so we're having our NIADA annual conference here in Pacific Grove. We're going to be at a Sillamar, which is...
very close, as the crow flies.
A mile and a quarter, I believe.
Oh yeah, a mile and a quarter. And you know what, I think that it's not just any old place. It's a really magical place that Mrs. Phoebe Hearst paid for it to be constructed.
It was a YMCA camp,
It was originally a YMCA that Mrs. Phoebe Hearst had created, and it was designed by Julia Morgan, who is famous for Hearst Castle. And it's literally in the middle of a forest by the sea. And the one thing that I want to get out to the audience is, I actually finally today, because I'm always behind on looking at things, I actually looked at the paperwork. And it is such a deal, because at a Sillamar, you get with your room 3 meals a day included. I mean, included. No extra fees for parking. It is a fabulous deal. And I think NYADA's registration, it's also a deal. So tell them what they get for registration.
Okay, so our registration is either $250 if you want to get the souvenir, and the souvenirs are individually handmade by a group of artists, so they're all different. So maybe one artist will be making 5 souvenirs and one artist will be making 10, and
So nobody gets the same.
nobody, well,
I mean,
5 people or 10 people
Yeah,
get the same.
but they're
that's-
still handcrafted,
Yes,
so
but
they're
they're
not-
all handcrafted, and so if you pay for your registration, you get programs. We have Michael's going to be doing a program. We have George Stewart who's doing a program.
And a lot of people don't know who George Stewart is, he is one of the most captivating speakers and one of the most talented people, I think, that ever made the human form. And as far as I'm concerned, it's worth the price of admission just to see and hear him. Not to step on what you're saying.
No.
But I was really excited to hear that he was coming because 45 years ago, he gave a lecture in Carmel Valley, which I was seated, and I was a lot younger 45 years ago. And
You were a kid.
I was a kid, and it stuck with me all these years. And I didn't really realize that he was a member of NYADA until they printed this fantastic book. And this is why you should all come, because really, this is a group, when you look at this, there's so much talent here. I mean, it really is. And a lot of the founding members of NYADA are some of the most collectible doll makers today. You know, Dorothy Heiser, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, it's just really, it's an opportunity to be surrounded by all of this talent. And what if you don't have talent and you want to learn to, or
So
you have the...
we had, so the first 3 days of our time at Asilomar, we have doll making classes which are taught by artists from all over. We're going to have a lot of cloth doll making classes. I'm teaching 2 classes. I'm teaching one on textiles and manipulating textiles for dressing dolls and mold making. We also have pattern making. Robert Tonner and Tanya Marriott are going to be teaching ZBrush sculpting. Tanya's from New Zealand, and Robert Tonner, of course, a lot of people know from the doll world.
Famous doll company.
Doll.
Yep.
Yeah. And,
Maker.
Yep. And then we have so then the conference starts off on Thursday, and the kickoff of the conference after we have a day of artist meeting and patrons meetings is going to be here at Michael and David's.
You're going to have a champagne
Yeah,
dessert extravaganza.
and I know that it'll be fabulous. And then on Friday we're going to have the programs. We have demos by artists. They'll demonstrate. I think there's going to be one on, I'm going to do one on different fabrics, the uses of different fabrics to use on dolls. And some of the other demos I think are, you know, making a perfect base for your doll or whatever. We're going to have a challenge where we're going to have teams of visiting artists and patrons, and then NYADA artists are going to divide up into teams, and we're all going to make dolls together as a team. And then we're going to auction them off on Saturday night at our banquet.
Now those will be real one of kinds.
Yeah, they will. And
So
I don't know what...
But you don't have to do these things. You could go and observe them being done.
Yes.
You don't have to, which I think is, even if you don't want to make dolls, it's very important to know the techniques that are used for whatever you collect, how you make them. Now, what about shopping opportunities?
So
Because we like to buy stuff.
Yeah. So on Saturday we have an exhibit and sale of all the NYADA artists in attendance and their work. Jennifer Osner, who sells antique textiles, comes and sets up a whole display of antique textiles and ribbons and laces and things that she sells.
And everybody loves that.
Yeah, everybody loves me too.
Yeah.
And then we also have what we call a flea market, and anybody that's in attendance can bring things to sell at the flea market.
Oh, that's fun.
But only NYADA artists are allowed to sell their dolls. So a visiting artist or a patron can only sell NYADA artist dolls.
Okay. So and how many artists are going to be in attendance?
Um,
And where are they from?
Right now, I'm not sure, I haven't done the latest count, but I know that we have to become a NIADA artist, it's a really strict jurying process. They have to come to a conference and have their work evaluated by other NIADA artists. The artists sign up for a critique and they get critiqued, and then they have to submit pictures of their work, and a standards committee of 10 people review it and score it. They can get a 1, a 2, there's no 3, a 4, and a 5. And once they score the work, if they pass that, they have to get a 2/3 vote. Then they move on to portfolio. So it's a lengthy process, and the last step in the process is to come to NIADA and bring 3 dolls, and then the whole body of artists that are in attendance vote. So we have a gal from Russia this year who's coming to get in, and
they have a lot of talented people in Russia.
Oh, amazing!
Amazing talent.
Oh, there's going to be a program done by one of the Russian artists on Russian artists, and that's always exciting to see the
What's
new
happening
work.
internationally.
Exactly.
So I mean, they are standing on big shoulders coming in as a new NIADA artist. I mean, they're on Dorothy Heiser's shoulders and Kathy Redmond and so on and so forth. These people that are, now their items sell for thousands of dollars when they originally sold them for $10.
Yes, yes.
So I mean, this is a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
So now, why should they come here? I mean,
Well,
'cause
first of all,
I can't brag about.
Right. Well,
I
first
can't
of all,
brag about.
Pacific Grove is just, I mean, my husband and I just love to come down here. It's it's sort of a getaway from life, and you just can relax. There's a world-class aquarium here in Monterey, which is not far away. There's Cannery Row, there's Fisherman's Wharf, and then Carmel.
Pebble Beach.
Yep. Pacific Grove is a charming town.
Yes, it is.
Full of Victorian houses and this wonderful place that you and David have created.
So there's a lot here.
There's a lot here.
I mean, I think there's a lot here to
I think
see.
there's a lot here too.
And a lot of people don't realize we do actually have an airport here that it would be the Monterey Airport. It is tricky to get to, but the best way is to fly into San Jose or San Francisco, and there's a very reliable shuttle that gets you here. It's kind of a nice little drive to see California.
Yep.
And I mean, I think people really should. I mean, I was shocked by the price. I think you're giving the doll world so much at such a good price, and the accommodations are kind of shocking, of the price wise. So how do they find out about how to register? And when is it?
Okay. It starts on June 24th and goes through July 2nd. So the Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday are all classes. And then we kick off on July 28th, June 28th here. And then it goes through Sunday, July 1st.
So they've got your schedule's on your website.
The schedule's
so
on
you
the
can
website.
see that you really could just be at a Silmar the whole time and not ever.
Right.
There's enough activities.
Oh, there's something going on every minute of the day, but you don't have. You can only. You don't have
do
to
what
purchase.
you want.
Right. You do what you want.
Yeah.
And if you go to NIADA.org, that's NIADA, which stands for National Institute of American Doll Artists, although now we're international, but we haven't changed our name. And there'll be a registration.
And you can register online.
You can register right there on the
register
website.
online, and they can also make hotel reservations.
Yes, and you can register for a Silmar. On our room block, there's a link on the bottom of the registration page.
So it's for one person.
One person in a room is $279 a night. That includes all your meals. And then if you have more people in your room, the cost goes down. If you have 4 people in a room that you're sharing, it's something like $144 a person.
And that's tax included.
That's tax included. That's parking included.
Yeah. And 3 meals.
And 3 meals.
And
snacks.
And snack. Yeah. Because we know how to eat here on the Monterey Peninsula. You don't make it here unless
Yeah, right,
you can eat.
right.
And Asilomar is famous for their food. Matter of fact, a lot of local people go there for the Thanksgiving
Oh, yeah?
extravagant. Yeah, they do.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah, they do. So you're getting in your room. It's not necessarily with NYADA. It's with the hotel that you get because you don't have meal events.
We do. We actually have an artisan patron meal event, which means if you pay your dues, and so if you're an artist, but if you can join as a patron for $50, and it's definitely worth it if you're coming to pay your $50, because then you get the artisan patron meal.
Okay.
And then we're having a banquet, which will be in a separate dining hall, and that's always, our big event.
And I want to show the audience this souvenir, which was one of your last year's souvenir.
And this was made by Catherine Mather from Australia, and
she's a incredibly talented.
Yeah.
And look at this, and not only that, it has a swivel neck. Anybody would
deal.
love to.
Yes.
Anyone would love to. And is she coming to this convention?
No, she won't be
Oh,
here.
she won't. Oh.
No, because she'll be at UFDC.
Oh, right. And you know what? It's a long ways to Australia to here.
Yeah.
But this is the type of thing they just might get something like this.
Yes. Or this is another one. This is needle felted, and this is by Deborah Pope, who's from New York State, and he's all needle felted.
I think it's a she.
Yeah. I think she's on. Yes, she's all
Well,
needle felted.
it's okay.
Yeah,
If
right.
It's so we do have people that do anamorphic things besides
anthropomorphic, yes.
Yes, rather than just.
Yes, we have several anthropomorphic artists. Connie Smith, who will be here, she's our current president, and she's from Nashville, Tennessee. And this year's souvenir artists are, one is from the Ukraine.
Oh, wow.
One is from Holland, but she's Dutch, but she lives in Spain. So we have souvenir artists from all over the world.
And is there a certain amount of competition where they feel that this is a way for them to present themselves? And
well, I don't know. We started doing it because I think I was the last artist that made 100 souvenirs, and most of the artists are not used. They're used to making one of a kind. So we started asking our artists to come up with designs that they could
make
sell.
multiples.
Yeah, that they could make multiples. So I think it's a good learning curve for them to learn how to.
So what if you get something and then you prefer something else? They have to do a little swapping?
Well, they have to swap among themselves.
And do they do that?
If we have extra, then they're for sale. But for instance, this one was part of, your souvenir package if you were a registrant. But if you didn't get this and you wanted it, you had to pay $195
Okay.
for it.
So you'd have to pay $195, but the registration is $250. So it was if you lucked out to get that,
right.
It was a wonderful deal.
Yeah.
It was a wonderful deal. So I hope that people go on to NIADA's website, and you want to tell them the address again?
Yes, it's NIADA, NIADA.org, O-R-G.
Now back to you.
Back to me.
So what makes you tick? Do you still, after 40 years, do you still have...
I love what I do.
You love what you do.
I can't imagine doing anything else at this point in my life. I go downstairs to my studio every day and go to work. I'm always doing something. It's either, book work or, right now I'm making 50 souvenir dolls for a luncheon at UFDC. I'm running this conference with my friend Tanya from New Zealand, and
So there's many more creative things in your head.
Oh yeah, I think that I'll probably won't last all the dolls that I have in my head that I want to make.
Sure.
But
sure.
Yeah, there's a lot more dolls, and I can't imagine retiring. What would I do?
And the thing about it is, I think that if you don't love what you do, really love what you do.
Well, I think it
You
comes
gotta
through
put
in
the,
my work.
you put the love into the item.
Yeah.
And that shows, and that's what touches people. They maybe don't understand that,
Right.
but it somehow does come through. Well, listen, thank you so much
thank you.
and then I have to make a decision of which item I want, and which I'll do, which is not going to be easy. But thank you, Ruby Lane, and I hope you enjoyed our first artist showcase. Have a great day. Bye-bye.